any reason I don't hear anything? I don't hear. Yeah, now it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, well, shalom. Nice to be back. Who listened to His Holiness's teachings?
I did.
You did? Nice. Great, yeah. I also got back this morning from Frankfurt. I went there to translate, so now I'm back here with my mom and ready to continue. Okay, great. So as usual, let's start with some meditation. Okay, just some breathing meditation. To be mindful of breathing in and out, letting go of any thoughts that have nothing to do with the class on the Heart Sutra. And then let's generate the right kind of motivation for the next hour and a half to generate the mind of bodhicitta. That is the wish to become fully awakened, to think that maybe be able to remove all that's extra in our mind, all the wrong perception, the wrong views in our mind, and instead generate great love and compassion, and eventually purify our mind of everything that's not supposed to be there, and to become fully awakened for the benefit of all sentient beings. So with this motivation, let's recite the prayers together. Refuge and bodhicitta. Okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity, and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity, and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation of merits, of practicing generosity, and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And then the four immeasurables. As part of the wish to become enlightened, so to not just wish for all sentient beings to have happiness and so forth, but with the motivation, I myself will do whatever I can to bring about happiness and so forth for sentient beings. So take a break between each line as before, so you have an opportunity to reflect upon the meaning. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separated from happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Okay, and now with the right kind of motivation, visualize that you're right now in the place near Rajgir. You're on Vulture Mass Mountain in the presence of the awakened Buddha, in the presence of many great practitioners who are an inspiration to your own practice, to your own development. In the presence of excellent bodhisattvas, such as Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Manjushri, and so forth. And through their example, they show you that whatever they've reached, whatever spiritual attainment they have attained, because of our Buddha nature, we can all reach that same state. And so we'll continue with this incredibly important sutra. And what we've done so far, just for you not to forget, in a few words, we spoke about this sutra having different outlines. You can divide it up into different sections. There's one section that only deals with the meaning of the title. So just telling us that this is a sutra that deals with wisdom. Then we have the homage by the translator. So to remind us that this text comes actually from Sanskrit, and it was translated, well, fast into Tibetan under great hardships, unimaginable hardships that fortunately nowadays we no longer have to suffer in order to provide translations, but to also have a sense of gratitude for the translators, for everyone who's involved in preserving the Dharma for so many thousands of years, well, more than 2,000 years. And then there's the explanation of the sutra itself. So those are first these three outlines. And then with regard to the explanation of the sutra itself, or the main body of the sutra, as it's also called, that again can be divided into a prologue, kind of introductory explanation, and then the actual sutra. So a prologue, there's a common prologue explaining the situation, the background of what's happening. I introduced it to you as part of this meditation, and it should be a meditation when you recite the sutra, to think that you're in the presence of great Sangha members, of bodhisattvas, of course in the presence of the Buddha. And then with regard to the uncommon prologue, so what we can see is that there are Sangha members, they're present, they're all there, basically waiting to receive a teaching. And then the uncommon prologue tells us that the Buddha is absorbed into this special meditation, being able to realize all phenomena plus their ultimate nature. And at the same time, there's Avalokiteshvara, the very inspiring bodhisattva, who's meditating on how the self and how phenomena other than the self, that is the five aggregates, how they exist, meditating, again, as an example, as an inspiration. And then Shariputra asking a question, asking Avalokiteshvara, well, how do I look at myself? How shall I look at myself, my body, my mind, and of course the self? What is the self? How do I exist? And in response to that, Avalokiteshvara then giving the explanation, talking initially about just saying the aggregates you should know, mind and body, the self, they don't exist inherently. Which of course is so hard to understand, so difficult to understand, but again, so important to understand, because from a Buddhist point of view, all our troubles, all our difficulties, everything we experience that we don't want to experience is the result of not knowing how the self exists and how other phenomena exist. And there's just no other way to totally remove our problems, our doubts, our anxiety, etc., unless we remove our wrong view, our misapprehension of reality. Well, why? Why? It's actually quite straightforward. His Holiness this morning and also yesterday gave a quote from the Mula Madhyamika Karikas, Nagarjuna's text, Fundamental Wisdom, where, without giving you the quote, but in a few words, he just said, well, how to remove suffering, how to remove our problems by understanding the causes. What are the causes of suffering? Well, the afflictive emotions, anger, hatred, aversion, attachment, jealousy, envy, all these are the causes, but then they themselves were brought about by our exaggerating attitude, by a type of mind that exaggerates what's positive, what's negative, what's pleasant, what's unpleasant, exaggerates the importance of the I, exaggerates the importance of what's mine, and so forth, which in turn comes from a mind that solidifies things, that perceives things to exist in and of themselves, to exist the way they appear to us as out there, and we perceive them only because they exist that way. We call them this, that, and the other. We label them because there are already those things. So this is a laptop, this is a room, a table, this is the I, etc. I call it such because it already is that. Okay, so this misapprehension, this view that there's a solid I and there's you and we're separate, we're totally separate entities, that leads to the sense that I and my happiness is more important than yours. My happiness, in fact, is more important than anything. When it comes down to the well-being of anyone, it's my well-being. And based on that, based on the view that there's a true I, there's something solidly true and inherent here that I now need to protect, based on that, then my entire life is judged. This is good. These are my friends. These are my enemies. These are the people I don't care about. And of course, all our actions, positive ones, harmful ones, beneficial ones, etc., all based on that. So therefore, and of course, most importantly, all the suffering arises from that. All these unwanted and unnecessary suffering. And not just that, we spend so much energy. We spend so much time gratifying that which is I and that which is mine. And this energy, this incredible intelligence we have anyway, intelligence, potential we use in such a narrow-minded way, just not understanding how things really are. And this energy could be used in a different way, could be used to generate more love, more compassion for ourselves and also for others. So the idea, of course, of love and compassion towards ourselves, it's not mentioned in the traditional scriptures as much, because I guess it just wasn't part of Indian culture, Tibetan culture as much as it should be, needs to be part of Western culture. Because oftentimes we have low self-esteem. We we are not our best friends, in other words. We are sometimes our greatest critics. We're very harsh with ourselves. We have very high expectations, and when we can't live up to these expectations, if we can't fulfill them, we are angry with ourselves, we hate ourselves, we are critical. So we can be actually our worst enemy. And so it's really important to become our best friend. To first understand, of course, we have faults. We're not perfect, and it's fine not to be perfect, even though modern media modern advertising and so forth may suggest it's possible, it's necessary to be perfect. But that's ludicrous. No one can be perfect. I would say not even the Buddha is perfect, because even though the Buddha could take away sentient being sufferings, Buddha would do it, but just can't do it because he's not omnipotent. So therefore, no one is perfect. And so to accept who we are, to first be okay with who we are, and to understand that we can change, I think is one of the greatest steps, to be able to be alone with ourselves, to be happy to be alone, and to not be scared to look inwards, and recognize our faults. That can be so scary initially. So we put it aside. We don't want to see it. It's just too painful. Mistakes we've made in the past, it may just be too painful to live up to it. But just pushing it aside and ignoring it will never be a solution. And it will be hunting us. It'll be there in the back of our mind, and sooner or later come back strongly. So there's just no other way than to accept it, to be okay with it, and to watch it. And these days now, with the whole situation in this world, if nothing else, we probably have a little bit more time. Can't go to restaurants, can't do certain things. We have more time to look inwards, and should really take this opportunity to look inwards, to develop this habit, even when we talk to someone, even if we're with others, even if we read a book or do something kind of directed outwards, to take a moment every second, every few seconds, not every second, but every few seconds. What is my mind doing? What am I thinking? What is my motivation? Am I uptight? Am I envious? Am I angry? Am I frustrated? What's happening? Right? Every now and then, just with this calm, observing mind, to use introspection and mindfulness to remind ourselves, what's my mind doing? And get to know our own mind. So people have the sense, to really be meditating, to really getting to know my own mind, I have to be a monk or a nun. I need to have more time. But to be honest, monks and nuns are just as busy. It's attachment to doing something. It's attachment to being active. And although there's nothing wrong with doing that, but it shouldn't be done to be entertained, to just not having to look inside, to face what's there. And everything that is taught here in the Heart Sutra about how the I exists, about how phenomena exist, it's really hard to understand. And we should think about this, contemplate this, however difficult it is, but at the same time not neglect, of course, understanding our mind better, understanding how the afflictive emotions, they harm us, and how they actually come from this misapprehension. So not just trying to understand how the self really exists, but also trying to understand how not understanding it is the main perpetrator, is the main cause for our problems. And I mentioned it a few times before. Whenever you have a problem, so I've asked you to make this your homework. One commitment I've given you was to recite the Heart Sutra daily. Well, that takes 5 minutes. How long does it take? To use it, to meditate for as much on it that you can, whatever you've learned, you should use that. But not just that, throughout your day, to remember, what did you learn about the self? And whenever you notice you're unhappy, you're not well, Maybe because of anxiety, you're worried, you're anxious, you're angry. Throughout the day, there are again and again these just short seconds sometimes, and then something else comes. The mind is ever changing. But to note, I'm not well, I'm not feeling okay. And take a moment to check, what is the I that is unwell? To really bring whatever you learn here into your daily life. And there's just no excuse. Anyone can do this. You don't have to be ordained. You don't have to be lay. You don't have to be celibate. No. Just make that time. And if it's just for a few seconds. So to get into this habit, to check, what is the I that is unhappy? And sometimes if you can't do that, it may, and this is something His Holiness the Dalai Lama has advised, even if you can't really go into meditation, you don't have the space to think of the self not existing in a certain way, looking for it among the aggregates, etc., at least remind yourself, well, it doesn't exist the way it appears. It doesn't exist that way. And just that gives some relief, may give you some relief. All right. Anyway, we've talked about the self, but of course, we don't just discuss the self. The sutra here specifically, we've come to the part, form is empty, emptiness is form. So here, form, I mentioned it last time. The word form is a weird word, but it's weird not just in English, it's weird in Tibetan too. So if you're a Tibetan native speaker, you don't use the word form the way it is used here. So it just takes a little bit of getting used to it. Form here means the physical body, the body that we can see. So very important as part of our lives, especially at this day and age. The body is so much emphasis on what the body looks like, how it feels, what shape it's got, what color it's got. So we're definitely very much preoccupied with our body. Now, how is it my body? Number one, what is the I that owns the body? But even more so, what is the body? Where is the essence that makes it my body? So, as we did before with the I, if there truly was this body that owns the arms, we talk about the arms of the body, the parts of the body, the cells of the body. So it seems to imply the way we talk, the way we think, seems to apply there is a body and then there's the owner of the body. There's something that holds those parts together. Okay? So if there's such a holder of all these parts, a part possessor, as it would be called in Tibetan, and it's a funny word. In English, it's a funny word. In Tibetan, it's a funny word. But if we talk about something that has parts, well, and we say it's the hand of the body, it's the fingers of the body, well, there should be something that holds them, that owns them. And then we go through this process of looking for it. Where do we look for it? Among its parts. And again, through meditation, we don't find it. Now, this meditation, unfortunately, gets boring if we allow it to get bored. In fact, living in the 21st century, we're not good with things that are repetitive. That's why we usually need to have the radio running, or we check online, we have a very fast internet. So just not having to wait for the little circle turning and turning and turning, something needs to pop up and it should be quick. I've said this on many occasions, like even our movies are so much faster than they used to be in the 50s or 40s when they started making movies. So everything is faster because we get bored quicker. We're no longer able to do the same thing over and over in the same way as we used to be able to do. But then I think what's beautiful is what you find in the Zen tradition, where there's a lot of emphasis on doing whatever you do again and again, so repetitive, but doing it with a beginner's mind. They would talk about a beginner's mind. When you do something for the first time, your mind is into it. You're trying to do it right. You're focused. You're You're attentive to what you're doing, you're excited, possibly something new. There's something new to discover. And actually, every time you check, you go through these meditations, what is the body? This attitude, we should adopt this attitude as if you did it for the first time. Kind of have that excitement. All right, let's look for it. Let's look for it. Let's look for the body within these parts. Let's look for the self within mind and body. Or take the body itself. Let's look for that. And if you have that attitude, you're doing it for the first time. You're doing it in a way that you haven't done it before. If you actually are able to do that, it's new every time. And every time you have a slightly different experience and you're able to go deeper. So therefore, there's this famous book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. So this beginner's mind, that's what you want to adopt, this kind of beginner's attitude. And of course, because of the impermanence, you are never the same. The meditating person is never the same. You've had experience from morning to evening that are similar to the experience you may have had yesterday or the day before yesterday, but similar implies they're not the same. They're actually different. They're different, which is why your meditation can never be the same. Okay. Therefore, despite it seems boring, and if you look at the Heart Sutra, it is so typical for this kind of repetitive action. There's no form, there's no feeling, there's no It's like, what? Can you just not? Well, why say that? Why not just, like this homeless, the Dalai Lama, he jokingly says, why don't you just say there's no face? Why say no eye, no ear, no nose, no mouth? We could just say there's no face. Why waste time? But it's important. Of course I can say there's no face and I'm done with it. But then I haven't done a thorough meditation. I talk about my eyes. What makes my eyes my eyes? I talk about my mouth, my nose, right? Each part. So you go through each one of them and you don't do it just once, you do it over and over. Let's not be fooled by the appearances. And so every time you go through it and you just don't find something essential, well, that's the way to do it. That's learning through life. It's not just learning with the text. This is the kind of learning here. It's not just an intellectual understanding. Oh, over there, the thing cannot be found. I understand the mechanics. No, you're really taking your own experience, your everyday kind of experience, and you integrate this. You bring this into every moment. The self. You feel, especially when you have a sense of self. So you have the strongest sense of self when you're not happy. And trust me, all day long we have our moments, an itch, a discomfort, a worry, something we hear, something we see, whatever. All day long we have these even just short moments of unhappiness, sometimes longer moments. So great opportunity. No way you won't have the appearance of a self. There will be a sense of I. Great opportunity. This is your petri dish. Sit down right away. There's the I. There's a sense of an I. Where's that I? Where's that I? And what's beautiful is the moment you let go of what you're worried about, anyway, the worry is gone. I mean, you need an object to worry. And if instead of worrying about what he has said and what she has said and start focusing on the I, at least the worry is gone for then. Okay, that doesn't mean your worry is totally gone, but it's got one advantage, just a temporary. Okay. And of course, you have to go back. You have to think about what you make for dinner, what you do. You need to plan, but allow the space in your mind every now and then. Look inwards. Breathe. Breathe. Just take that quietness that you can actually find within, that you may have already developed early in the morning. If you do some breathing meditation, you return to that space and just take a moment to watch. Okay, it's almost like everything turns inward. What is this I? Okay, just take a moment. And so your entire day becomes a day of living the normal life, a little bit of meditation, a few seconds, a little bit of meditation, a few seconds. Go back. Okay, turn inwards, take a second and go back. And anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. No excuse. And it may be boring at first, but come on, you make food every day. How's that not boring? You brush your teeth every day. How's that not boring, right? And you do other things while you're brushing your teeth because it gets boring. Well, why not meditate? Okay. So all these ideas, yeah, I can only meditate if I'm a monk or a nun, or I can only meditate when I find this perfect cave with great internet, running water, soft mattress. It's never gonna, or no one making any noise. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. People spend so much time to find the perfect retreat that they die before they start this perfect retreat. It's not gonna happen. And in fact, a perfect retreat can only be a retreat where you face all the stuff that's inside. If it's too peaceful and it's too wonderful, well, then we get complacent and we're not going to practice. We're just going to enjoy. Okay. And then Corona comes along and gives us the opportunity, whoa, to face all this balagan, right? That we didn't even know it was there. All this messy stuff inside. Okay, but to go back to what Avalokiteshvara says. So he says exactly, he talks about, look, this body, it doesn't exist the way it appears. Things appear to us in many different ways. There's so many optical illusions anyway. And okay, they're there, but we don't have to get carried away by them. Okay, so of course, it seems there's this world that I walk into because it's objectively there. Okay, we all have that experience. We have this experience so strongly. In fact, and I keep mentioning that, there are two levels of our mind. I've said that many times. There are two levels of our mind. There's the more emotional level and there's the more intellectual level. I even show towards the heart. I point towards the heart and towards the brain, but that's just silly. I shouldn't point anywhere because you can't say, oh, the intellectual is more up here and the emotional is more here. It doesn't work like that. That's more a Western kind of idea. No, but we do have these two levels of mind. How do we know? How do we know? As an example, I know beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. It's a matter of taste. Everyone's got a different taste, right? We have these thoughts. We intellectually know that. But then when my neighbor buys a particular dress or a particular suit or whatever, and I feel like, oh gosh, they got such a horrible taste. How can they dress like that? As if there were objective beauty and I know what that is and the other person just doesn't, right? It's not just about an inherent eye, an inherent body. It's all about beauty and ugly, as if there's something within the object that makes it beautiful and it's over there and I see it for what it is, and the other person's just got a screwed taste. They got a terrible taste, right? That's what it feels. And intellectually I can go on saying, oh no, our beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, but deep within it feels like I'm right and they're wrong. I know I've got a good taste. They don't know how to dress properly. So that's what we want to get in touch with that type of mind that feels beauty is over there. It's out there. It's got nothing to do with me perceiving it. This is beautiful, and who doesn't see it? Well, there's just something wrong with them. Okay. And it goes further from there, and we'll talk more about this, but also seeing happiness outside of ourselves, in an experience, in another person. Why? Because we have a sense, we are in a situation, something makes us happy, and that happiness which is here is experienced by our own mind. We now project it onto the other person. It's just part of this labeling. And that niceness, that happiness is seen over there. So the happiness seems to be in that thing. And now we want it, forgetting that the happiness was experienced here. Okay, the person triggered it, but it was experienced here. And if the happiness was with the other thing, we should always have the same happiness when we're with this thing, when we're with that person. But there are times it doesn't affect us at all, because the happiness is still experienced by our own mind. And nonetheless, we feel there's some objective ability to make us happy in the object, and therefore we crave it, and we are so busy to get the things we crave that of course we have very little time to do other things. So there are plenty of examples. The sense that there's something objectively over there, not just a self, an objective I here, an objective other, an objective annoying person over there, an objective ugly house, etc. Not just that, but on top of it, we emotionally react to those, and we crave one, we have aversion towards the other, etc. And as a result of that, we suffer so much. So going back to the body, okay, what does Avalokiteshvara say? The body doesn't exist in and of itself. But the form, the body, is empty of inherent existence, doesn't exist in the way it appears to us. And emptiness, this emptiness of the body, the fact that the body lacks that particular characteristic. We're not saying the body doesn't exist. No one says that there's no body, but it doesn't exist the way it appears. So that body, that nonetheless exists, because conventionally it exists. It is just called a body. It's just called a body. That's it. We just give this entity, it's made of parts, they're all non-bodies, okay? When I say my body, okay, you can't see my entire body, but you can see parts of it, right? So my shoulder, it's not my body. My heart, my hand, my arms, it's not my body, my head. So there are lots of non-bodies that I now point at and say, there's a body. In fact, when you touch this non-body here, which is an arm, it's not a body, it's an arm. You touch it, I say, you touch my body, okay? Why? Because I label body on this arm, because I've decided based on these parts, I label this body, okay? So it's a body because I've labeled it a body. I've labeled it my body, of course, because I've labeled I on top of this body, and also on the mind, I've labeled I. Which is why when you touch me, this is not an I, this is not a body, but I still say, oh, you touched my I, you touched me, okay? That's only possible because I label I. I label I on the basis of this, because I've decided that's what I call the I, and that's it. So when you kind of go like that and you punch me and I say, I was hurt, it's actually just conventionally there was an I hurt, but it feels like, ooh, this was personal. That was personal. I love that sentence. Oh, that was personal. They really wanted to hurt me. And so not only does it hurt here, if I got like a, like it turns blue or whatever, not only do I experience pain, like a physical pain, I experience mental pain, because I'm no longer aware that this is an I because I call it that. No, it seems I call it an I because already it is one, and I just call it what it is. Okay? And that is true for everything. Because I call it, or because I think I, okay, I think I, therefore it becomes I. It's all right. And it's very, very consistent. Conventional means there are certain parts I associate with the I, and so therefore from now on, in order to be able to think about it, I need some label, I need something to refer to it, so I refer to it as I. And before long, because of my habit, I believe, no, it's not just labeled on the basis of certain parts. So I can say, you touched me when you touch my arm. It feels that not only do you touch my arm, there's another I that was also touched, right? So, you touch me and you touch the I. And so it's almost like you touched two things. You touched the arm and the I, okay? Two things were touched. And the arm, the body, and the I, three things, okay? Because we label on the basis of this arm, I label body, okay? So you touch my arm. I mean, even the arm is just labeled on the basis of something that's not an arm, okay? We can go further. In the end, what you really touched were a few cells that are on top of my skin, okay? So based on that, I label, oh, you touched my arm. And then it feels, ooh, there's really an arm. There's some arm there. And it goes on, but of course, most important is the I. Most important is the I that I've labeled. And depending on how I judge what you've done, I like you or I don't like you. I'm attached or I'm not. I simply don't care about you. Okay? Unless you give me what I really want, happiness, I don't care about you. Or I hate you if you destroy what I really care for. So it all comes down to this really strong sense. I and my body, very precious, more precious than anything else. And that's just a creation of my own mind. And my mind is so used to it and it's been doing it for so long, you cannot underestimate your own mind. Okay, there's a question, but let's keep it for now. Okay, let's keep it for now because I'm in this flow. Let me just close this a little bit. Okay, so now, what does he say? What does Avalokiteshvara says? He says, yourself doesn't exist like that. Your body doesn't exist like that. And because it doesn't exist like that, it can exist. In other words, if my body existed as inherently and truly as it appears to me, it couldn't be there. I couldn't have a body, which is why he says, form is empty. Emptiness is form. That's not to be taken literally. It's easily said, it's easily recited. What he really says is, come on, understand, your body doesn't exist objectively, inherently as you think. And because it lacks those qualities that we absurdly and wrongly, mistakenly apprehend or perceive all the time, because they don't exist, that's why we exist. That's why there is a conventional arm. There is a conventional arm. There's a conventional body. There's a conventional eye. So because of emptiness, everything is possible. Okay? So form is empty. Form doesn't exist the way it appears. And because it doesn't exist that way, you have form. Emptiness is form. And when we talk about our body, it doesn't exist as solidly as it seems to us. It seems to exist that solid. It doesn't exist that way. And that mode of existence, the fact that it doesn't exist in and of itself, that is a characteristic of this conventional body. It's a characteristic that cannot be separated. Okay? Cannot be separated. So you cannot separate the conventional body that is just labeled from this quality that it lacks inherent existence. So form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. It doesn't exist separately. It doesn't exist separately. So this lack of being an inherent body doesn't exist separate from the conventional body. Couldn't be, because we said already, it's only possible to have a conventional body because it doesn't exist inherently. And its lack of inherent existence is just one of its qualities. A qualities that it has always had, but that we wrongly think it doesn't have. Okay. So form is empty. Emptiness is form. To say it again, form doesn't, my body doesn't exist inherently. And because it doesn't exist inherently, it actually exists. It's able to function. It's able to interact. Emptiness is form. Form is not other than emptiness. So that emptiness, that actual mode of existence, that the only reason we talk about it is because we don't understand it. I mean, you could also say the impermanence of this, or the color of my body, or the shape. Of course, none of those can be separated from it, but I'm aware of my color, I'm aware of my shape, not really aware of my impermanence, okay. But we don't need to talk about it here, because misapprehending my impermanence is not the main cause of my suffering. It does cause me some suffering. I may spend a huge amount of money on anti-wrinkle cream because, you know, it's just my impermanence. I don't want it to change and I hold on to it and whatever. So, but the point is, the main misapprehension that we suffer from is the sense there's an inherent body, and that's inherent mind. And therefore, inherently, there's something here that makes it more important than myself. So to understand, doesn't have that quality. It lacks that quality, which is why it can exist. And that quality of lacking inherent existence cannot be separated from my body, which of course it does exist. It just doesn't exist the way I think it does. It exists conventional. It's just labeled. It's just called body. Okay. And whether I use the language, like use of language, or just calling it, I just label it. It's just the thought, body. That's it. That's labeling. Okay. We have these thoughts all day long, constructing, making sense of the world around us. This is that, this is me. I have this quality, that quality. We label all day long, right? And create this collage of different ideas of who I am, of who others are. And that's all fine, because conventionally, yes, part of it is conventionally not true, but a lot of it is conventionally true. Of course, we make mistakes. We may believe this other person hates me, although they actually don't. They never had that thought. They don't care about me, so they don't hate me. So there I'm conventionally wrong, okay? But I can be conventionally wrong and right, but nonetheless, it's merely the thoughts, it's this, it's that. Nothing can be found to say, this is a tree, this is a house, this is this. It's all just the thoughts making it that. And therefore it's able to function. And therefore we talk about, for example, this body, its lack of inherent existence. So this body is empty. The empty is the profundity of the ultimate. If you look at your text, as part of Avalokiteshvara's answer, there's an explanation. There's initially, he just gives a more general answer. Okay, and I'll say a little bit more about this once again, but just for now, so Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage. So in other words, anyone who wants to practice great compassion, whether male or female, it doesn't matter, who wishes to practice that way, you need to understand how correctly, you need to correctly understand, and through reasoning, because that's the way we can access it, how the body, how the mind, how everything that makes me, how it really exists. And then he's very specific. This body, for instance, it doesn't exist inherently. So he talks about the ultimate way, the ultimate nature of this body. And then he talks about that's the profundity of the ultimate. And then he says, the emptiness of this body makes the body possible. So form, emptiness is form. The fact that it lacks inherent existence makes it possible that this body actually, it can only exist if it doesn't exist inherently. Okay? And then the next is, what is the next in Tibetan? Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Emptiness is not other than form. So here it's saying form is the conventional truth. Its lack of inherent existence, its ultimate truth. Those two cannot be separated. They're like a gold coin and the gold. Okay? Gold is like the emptiness. You can't separate a gold coin. You couldn't have a gold coin without the gold. Okay? So it's a bit like saying you can have a body only because it lacks inherent existence. You can have a gold coin only because there's gold. So gold is empty. Sorry, gold is like the emptiness, and the gold coin is like the conventional. That's like how it appears to us. Conventional truth is another way, and that's a little bit weird, but actually when you read the texts, conventional truth are described as the appearances, the things that appear to our mind. Okay? They're just appearances. In fact, modern physics help us to understand that the things, the way they appear to us actually don't exist. This is what's so beautiful. This Holmes talks about quantum physics, mentioned the word again and again yesterday and today as well during his teachings, but not just getting into quantum physics, just ordinary physics, if you can call it that. The fact that colors, the way we perceive them, they don't exist that way. They're just light waves, whatever that means, right? I have some abstract idea of what that means, but I see blue, I see brown, I see white, I see red. That is a subjective appearance to my mind. And so you have your subjective, if you think of colors and shapes around you, they're uniquely appearing to your mind. They don't exist out there that same way. That's why animals can perceive them very differently. They have their unique appearances. And I just assume you see the same as I do, but you probably don't. Whether you're short-sighted, wide-sighted, depending on where you stand. I mean, the way you look at the world is very much influenced by culture, by your background, but what you consider to be beautiful, etc. So our experiences are not just about shape and colors, they're much fuller. Beautiful, not beautiful, desirable, not beautiful. Does it make us happy when we see it? Does it make us not? It's a full experience. There are thoughts arising, racing right away, and those thoughts influence how we see things. I mean, this is here, I'm not talking Buddhist any longer. This is something you can talk with, I don't know what they're called, behavioral scientists or whatever. The point is that just the basic idea of seeing colors and shapes, hearing sounds, they're pressure waves. When you hear a sound, the way you hear it doesn't exist out there. So it's pretty obvious, it's appearances. Things appear to us in a certain way. Okay, so those are called conventional truth. Conventional truth are all these appearances we have, and they are there because of our mind, and they're a body because we label it body, label it I, etc. Okay, so those appearances are there, but they don't exist in and of themselves. And because they don't exist in and of themselves, they can exist. Form is empty, emptiness is form. And you cannot separate them. You cannot separate this mode of existence, that way in which things exist. Emptiness is not other than form. Its actual mode of existence is not really other than those appearances. But form also is not other than emptiness, is really saying, but still they're not the same. Although it seems to be saying the same thing, but it's just a little bit weird. I don't know why they put it that way. Emptiness is not other than form is actually saying that emptiness of the appearance of the body and emptiness cannot be separated, but they're also not identical. So we can distinguish between the actual mode of existence, the lack of inherent existence of the body, and the conventional body. We need to distinguish between them. Okay? Does that make sense? To a certain degree, does that make sense? All right. And we can take it further. Usually we don't do that. We talk about tables and I and bodies, but we can even take abstract things. And it's not really mentioned, but we've had that discussion last year and I loved it, about numbers. When we say 1, 2, 3, 4, how do numbers exist? Remember, Maya, you were there, right? So how do numbers exist? Is there actually an inherent 1? Is there an inherent 2? There's this beautiful video online. I can try and find it and maybe send the link to, oops, I'm mute. Am I mute? I can see a little sign mute there on my little picture. No? Sure. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you are good. You're good.
Okay. All right. Then I'll just ignore what it says there. So there's a little beautiful video. I'll send the link to share, and it's very beautiful. There's this analysis of how numbers exist. Are they these absolute numbers? Are they merely imagined? Or do they exist nominally? So because there is a pen, okay? So the way he describes it, children, when they learn how to count, you show them objects, one pen and another pen. And so actually there are two fingers, you show them 2 fingers or 2 cakes, whatever. So 2 is merely labeled on the basis of 1 and 2, so just labeled. And there's this whole video about these theories of how numbers exist. Either they exist out there, there's this whole universe of numbers, and they just happen to apply to those 2 fingers, or they're just made up, or they exist nominally. Well, guess what? The Buddhist answer would be just nominally. Just nominally. We just label 1 and 2 on 2 objects that can be counted. Again, there's nothing intrinsic one. There's no overarching one somewhere floating in space. And still we're saying 1 and 2 exist. It's not just made up, not saying nothing exists. We're saying they're fingers, they're conventional numbers, etc. All right. So this is really the core of this teaching. Form doesn't exist in and of itself. It's merely labeled. And because it doesn't exist in and of itself, it can exist. And that quality of not existing in and of itself, being merely labeled, is part of the form, but it's not identical with it, because we can still distinguish between the lack of inherent existence of form and form itself, a conventional form. So that's what it says. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. And that is the Buddhist teaching on wisdom in 4 sentences, the 4 profundities. So it's the profundity of the ultimate, telling us how the body really exists. The profundity of the conventional, telling us that because it doesn't exist in and of itself, it's conventionally existent. The profundity of the true truth, the ultimate, how it ultimately exists, lack of inherent existence, and being a conventional form, the conventional truth, that they are of one nature, inseparable. You can't separate them. You can't have one without the other. Okay, you can't have lack of inherent existence of form without form, and you can't have form without the lack of inherent existence of form. And although they're inseparable, they're not the same. Form is also no other than emptiness, so the true truth are nominally distinct. Okay. All right, that's it. That's emptiness in a nutshell, in 4 sentences. Okay, but that is very difficult to understand. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time. It needs a lot of reflection. But if we really understand that, not understanding that is the cause of all our problems. If we really get a sense of that, and since we all know we want to be happy, we deserve to be happy. In fact, to be a better person, to make a difference, at least to the small degree that we can, it is very helpful to be happy. We deserve to be happy. If we can, of course, if we're depressed, etc., okay, we can't help it. But if we deny ourselves to be happy because we feel that we don't deserve it, well, that's definitely wrong, because a happier person is more relaxed, etc., and just more helpful in terms of interactions with others, etc. So if we really want to find happiness and we truly understand that the misapprehension of reality is that which is between me and my happiness, well, we'll make an effort. However difficult it is very difficult. It is not difficult itself, it's only difficult because our mind so stubbornly and so for so long perceives the opposite. Okay, great. We'll have time for some questions. We have time for some questions. And again, I'd like to do some meditation, because just talking, you probably get tired, and you need to do it yourself. You need to go through the meditations yourself to gain some understanding yourself. And so it actually grows within you. All right, let's have some questions. I saw Vada posted something, but I could only see a part of it. So if she still has a question, or anyone else. Yes,
Yeah.
Maya? Can you write it or say it? Never mind. Or maybe Shir could. Maya Horef, is that your last name? Yeah. Okay. Could Shir, could you unmute her?
Yeah. Whoever has a question can unmute themselves.
Pardon?
Yeah. Whoever has a question can unmute himself now.
Please unmute yourself. If you know how to do that. Can you unmute yourself? Probably have to
press the mute.
Pardon?
Press on the mute.
Press on the mute. Oh yeah, Maya, I think you're unmuted now. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that Vada wanted to ask a question before I did. So.
Oh, Vada, you're still there? Oh yeah, there you are. I can see you. Do you still have your question? Can you unmute yourself?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, please go ahead and ask.
Yeah? Is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. The thing is that I thought not about the label body, but when we try to think about our body, we actually cannot think about the whole of our body, because when we think about something, we think about a part of the body. We cannot sort of put all the body together and think about our body.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, I would agree. I mean, you can try that with the eye. I mean, if you were to think of the eye and you had to think of body and mind and everything, I mean, we'd never have the time to think of eye, right? No, what do? There's almost like there's some essence. That's the inherent eye. There's some essence, the body, right? It's just this, it's almost like an idea that we hold on to. It's this it's this body. And of course, we label the body on the basis of all its parts, but then we perceive this body to not just be labeled on this part, this part, this part, but we have this kind of separate inherent sense of an I, and that's what we think of. Yes, Marta.
I think we can label all the parts of the thing that we call body as body, but we cannot think about our body as one whole thing.
Well, I think when we say we label the body on its parts, we actually label the body on any of its parts. We don't always label the body on all of its parts, because if we did, when you touch me, I label you touched my body. In that moment,
No,
I have this thought.
I don't touch your body, I touch your arm.
When you touch my body, when you touch my arm, oh, she touched my body. There's this thought.
No, you can't think about you can't think about your body, because you can't pinpoint your thought on the whole body.
But when I were to push you, don't you think, oh, someone pushed me? I was pushed. Do you think that? Do you think?
But
do you have the
different.
thought, oh, they pushed me, I was pushed, right?
I'm not talking about the eye, I'm talking about the body.
Well, it works the same with the body and the eye, right? He touched my body. It's the same idea. The eye just includes more mind and body. The body is a part of the eye, right? So when someone says something insulting, you feel like my body, my mind was hurt, my feeling was hurt, right? Again, I'm taking an aspect that's just labeled and I say that was hurt. My body is sick. I am sick. When you say I am sick, my body is sick, again, there's a sense, there's this body, this entity body.
But you can perceive one thing at one time.
Yes.
And when you perceive this, the point where I touch myself, when you perceive this, you can't perceive your whole body.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to label body. You don't label body necessarily on the whole body. So when you just on any part of it. So of course you don't see the whole body. When I ask you what includes your entire body, you would say everything. But if you think about your body, you think of a part of it. That's why the body is one reason it's only labeled, because although we say everything is part of the body, but to think about the body, we don't have to think of everything.
Can't. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Well, no, you can't at the same time. You can't simultaneously think of everything. You can only take one aspect. I totally agree.
Yeah.
But that's another reason why there is no inherent no inherent body. Because if there was an inherent body, you could think of everything that is the body, right?
I thought this idea of not being able to see the whole body, but you see only one part at one time, can help.
Yes, it can help to understand that. Yes, I
understand.
can definitely have to understand. Maya, go ahead.
I mute myself, sorry. So I have a question regarding to the emptiness and so on. So we say, you know, I understand them as best as I can, you know, the emptiness idea in an intellectual way. But because I cannot, you know, internalize it still, so I feel sometimes that it challenged me 2 times. You know, one in the fact that I cannot, you know, completely overcome really, you know, harmful things that happens, and then I, you know, judge myself from not being able to overcome it, as you know, and then there is, you know, some people that they say, you know, but things are empty, you know, don't take it to the heart because things are empty, and you're like, okay, I understand it intellectually, but you know, at the best that I can, you know, because of course, you know, the more that you learn, you're, you know, discover how much you have to learn more. But so do you have any advice regarding to that also? Because it seems like sometimes people, you know, they just go, so things are empty, you know, and so.
Yeah. This just takes a lot of time. We can be a little bit impatient. We want to know it right away, and it's frustrating. But of course, right now, every mind that arises, and you know, every moment there's a different type of mind, is directly or indirectly influenced by our misperception. So that's the challenge. Okay, and some people would argue, well, if all our minds are affected by the misapprehension of reality, how can we use this mind that is totally influenced by this misapprehension to understand something that it perceives the opposite of? Okay, well, it's the same answer. A body that is right now not flexible, that body can be used to transform it into a flexible body. And that takes time. Okay. Now, because our mind, it's again, doesn't exist in and of itself, it can be changed. But this is one reason which we can intellectually understand. So therefore, however much we're influenced by this misapprehension, we can come to understand it eventually. But we make one mistake. We don't want to look for the I. We do it once, we said, we did it, I still don't understand it, now give me something else. We have a tendency, we want to understand how the I exists. We think dependent arising is much more interesting than this, the I is not here, it's not there. This whole negating, it's boring. We want more affirmative things, right? So the only way really is to sit down and again analyze the situation, letting go in that moment of okay, dependent arising, just sit down. Where's the problem in the problem? Okay, almost like puzzle pieces, and take them apart. So there's that. Where's the problem in the problem? Wow, I can't find the problem. Where's the I that's suffering right now, that was insulted? Where's the I? I don't find that. And let it be. Okay, couldn't find that. All right, then look for that. And just again and again, because what we do is we think about emptiness a little bit, we get bored, and then we think of this inherent emptiness. We turn it into an inherent emptiness, and then try to understand how it can be interdependently existent, and that doesn't make sense any longer, and it just gets frustrating. So instead of taking it too far and making it too complicated, there's one meditation. Take a specific situation that seems so truly horrible, look for the horrible within the situation, take it apart. Can you find it? And when you don't find anything, there it is, it's emptiness. You found the emptiness. Okay, and then again, let it go, look at the situation. Is it still a terrible problem? Yes, it is. Look for it again. You may see it slightly differently. I'm not even saying in a better way or with more wisdom, because we look at it, you know, every day the situation changes. But again, search for it. Don't be satisfied with appearances, search for it. Then you take the I, you take the other person. boy, you're going to be really busy, because in every moment you have an object, and that appears inherently. So we have to spend a lot of time taking these different objects, and that's what the Heart Sutra tells us to do. No form, no feeling, no this, no this, no that, no this, right? It's basically telling us, sorry, no quick fix. Think about this. Don't find it. Think about that. But the good thing is, if you do over and over and over again, slowly you can start thinking, it's almost like what seemed so solid previously, just a tiny little less solid. And that is huge. Okay. And the only way you can study, you can become the most famous Geshe, you will never understand emptiness unless you do the simple, just going to look for it among its parts, cannot find it, again and again. And then if you don't find it, that's your own experience. I couldn't find it, right? And then you may have funny ideas, it could be found somewhere else. Well, look for it, right? That's it. So my teachers, they always stress that, yes, understanding how it really exists is important, but be honest with yourself. Am I getting bored of looking for it and not finding it, and then just thinking, nah, I want to get a little bit like affirmative? Well, and I think a little bit of dependent arising because it makes me feel good. Well, then you're thinking of something truly there and dependently arisen, and then even dependent arising doesn't make sense because it can't be dependent arising and inherently existent. So the only way is to let it, allow this appearance to appear and look for it. I think that's it. It's boring. I mean, on first hearing it, it's terribly boring, but if you get used to it, every time is slightly different. It will never be the same. And you take it deeper and deeper and deeper. And that is an experience no one can give you and no one can take from you. Does that make sense? But let's do it.
Thank you. It was more sharp, but it's in a very good, thank you. I mean, that's the point. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Let's do it. That's all you can do. So we learn about it actually only to know how to do it, and then we have to do it. So allow me to do the meditation again. And if you feel like, oh, right, you see, you want to get a sense where your emotional part is also involved, where you're going, all right, I'm ready to look for it. There's almost a sense of, there's curiosity and the sense of, okay, I'll find it. This time I really find it. The Buddha was wrong. You can even approach it that way. The Buddha was wrong. There is something there that makes it my body. There must be something there and I'll prove it. But this kind, that's the kind of emotional, that's actually great, because then it's not some dry intellectual, but your emotions are involved. And that's so important. Because only when you get to a point, boy, I couldn't find this I, as an example. And I'm thinking of I all day long, but I couldn't find it. That's huge. Right? And this body, I'm so obsessed. Oh my God, I starve myself to death and I buy all this stuff and I exercise, but I couldn't find that body. All right? Of course, when you fall into the extreme of nihilism, pinch yourself. All right? Oh, it's not there? Well, look in the mirror. Conventionally, it's there. All right? But don't worry, you won't be falling extreme of nihilism to a degree that you think there's nothing there. It's impossible. I mean, who does that? You still see things. Appearances are still there. Okay, great. I have a little bit of time on meditation. I want to make sure. Is there no more question? Okay. Well, you may still have thousands of questions, but you'll find the answer yourself in the end, of course, through just doing it over and over again. So same meditation. Hopefully it's a little different. And of course, it becomes also different if you bring your own initiative into it, right? Look here, look there. If you don't want to follow what I'm saying, you just go ahead and do it yourself. Okay, so for today, the meditation, we've done the I. Now we'll do the body. The sense that this is a body. Think of your own body. It occupies space. It has a certain size, a certain shape, a certain color, and there's the thought, body, okay? Another person's body as opposed to my body. A strong sense, there's this body that holds together the arm, the legs, that is healthy, that is young, that is old, whatever. allow that to appear to your mind. Okay, so be comfortable, please. As usual, just to calm the mind, to be ready to internalize, to be self-reflective with respect to the body, we'll take a few moments to just let go of any disruptive thoughts and just do some breathing. And now, just become aware of your own body. Feel its weight. Generate the thought, my body. That occupies space. That has a certain shape and color, whether I like it or I don't. Just a sense, body, my body. Just allow this to appear to your mind. Something that is a part of you, an important part of you. Now, do you get a sense that there's a body that has arms, has legs, has a head, a trunk, feet, skin, blood? Is there a sense there's an owner of all its parts that holds everything together? There's something we describe as big or small, beautiful, ugly, desirable, undesirable. That body. Just allow that to appear to your mind. Where is that? Is your body separate from your arm, your legs, your head, your blood vessels, your skin? Is it different from those? Or the same? if it's different, you could get rid of all your parts and still be left with a solid body. But that doesn't make sense, does it? And if the body were the same as its parts, we have so many parts. Does that mean we have many bodies? So none of the individual parts could be the body. The head is not the body. The arms are not. And no individual other part is the body. So all I'm left with is the collection of parts. They are the body. But how can many non-bodies be a body? How can there be my body? And if all the parts were the body, then if one part is sick, all the parts would have to be sick. Because when my belly is sick, I say my body is sick. And my body is all parts. And I could no longer see my body. Because if my body were all its parts, I would have to see all its parts. So when I'm honest, although it seems very clear to me that there's something that is my body, that is precious, needs to be protected. I look for it, I cannot find it. Why? Because it's never existed. The body is merely labeled. On any of its parts. They're also merely labeled. So when someone scratches my shoulder, I label body on my shoulder. This person scratched my body. And when my belly aches, I label body on my belly, saying my body is sick. And when I see the front of my body, I label, I see my body based on the front of my body. Which is why my body is empty of unlabeled inherent existence. And because it doesn't exist inherently, it's merely labeled, that's why it exists. It changes, it interacts, it functions. Form is empty, emptiness is form. And my body, this conventionally appearing entity, is not separate from its characteristic of being empty of inherent existence. And although you cannot separate my body from its lack of inherent existence, they're still nominally different. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. Okay. All right, that was a short meditation. It wasn't as long as last time, 15 minutes. And like I said, have to do this again and again and again. Especially with the I. Like I said, please try it. Just try it. And don't get too involved in this thought and that thought. Just simply look for the I. All right, I got hurt. Where's the I? I got insulted. Where's the I? I can't be without this person. Where's the I? I'm worried. Where's the I? Okay, so of course there's a mind that worries, and that's all right. We're not looking for the mind that's worrying. There's a mind that worries. Okay, I noticed the worry, but it is associated with an I, my reputation. Okay, my success. All this, the moment this thought comes, take the opportunity. Where is the I that I want success for? I want gain for? I want well-being. Look for it. It's the only way to go about it. And have a beginner's mind, a beginner's mind. Have a beginner's mind every time you do that. Okay, wonderful. Next time I'll talk a little bit more. We've done this essential part, but also how this initially, not just the object, of course, of it, but how this mind can actually be transformed, can be made more powerful, even though this is not yet the case for you, but then you know where it's going. And as part of getting to know your own mind, you get to understand that this is what you can do with your own mind, no matter where you are right now. Okay, so we'll talk about the stages. I'll talk about a little bit, but we'll also move on more in the text. Varda, are you raising your hand?
Yes, please. Could you, the next time, talk a little bit about the difference between the reference body and the label body?
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll try to do that. You can always put it also like the referent object, the label, how the labeling works. Sure, I can definitely do that. Of course, if there are other requests, I try to, and you can always post them, send them off to Shir, or put them in the WhatsApp group. Shir gives me a message. If there are bits you would like me to address, if I can, I'll be happy to do that. Most important is what you want, what you need. And yes, there's so many directions I can go to. Of course, I need to focus on the sutra, but yes, any suggestions are very welcome. All right.
thank you.
Great. So let's do the dedication. Of course, why? Not to forget why we're doing that. Not just for our own welfare, but as His Holiness also talked about, the fact that we're connected to everyone else in this world. We're interconnected. So much comes from others. Others' well-being is just as important as our own well-being. And so just as we have a personal responsibility for our own well-being, we have a personal responsibility for the welfare of all sentient beings. And in fact, not just understanding emptiness, but also developing love and compassion, which we can if this grasping at an unrealistic self is out of the way. Generating love and compassion are so important. They're good for us. They're only indirectly good for others. They're good for us. And of course, they make us go out of our way and spend more time and energy for others. So as part of our training, let's now dedicate whatever positive potential we've accumulated. May this become the cause to generate more love, more true concern, unconditional love that is the wish for others to be happy without expecting anything back, so that eventually this mind, together with the wisdom that we're trying to generate and develop here, may this enable us to transform our mind, be able to bring forth the true nature of our own mind to be of greatest benefit to all sentient beings, in the sense that we become fully awakened. And with this in mind, with the wish to become enlightened, dedicating everything we've done today, all the virtue we've accumulated towards our own enlightenment, with this in mind, let's recite the dedication prayer. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose body are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water. Here, can you put it up a little bit? Yeah. And delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the hopeless find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all the medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and the people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and relieve the suffering of sentient beings. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. And again, as part of this week, please don't give up. It is difficult. You'll have more questions, you'll have more doubts, but just continue with this meditation. When there's the thought of I, when there's a strong emotional response, a strong sense of I was hurt, I was insulted, where's that I? Just very gently look for the I. When there's a strong sense, my body, I don't like my body, I like my body, etc. Where is the body? What is the body in the body? What makes it my body? All right. Okay, so I wish you a wonderful week. Don't forget to recite the Heart Sutra, and I'll see you again, meet you again, talk to you again next Sunday.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.